I'd like to welcome you here tonight. We're just a couple of minutes away from starting the meeting. And before we begin, I would like to invite you to stand and join me in the pledge, and then Colby Fulfer will bring the invocation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Father, we thank you for this day and for all of your many blessings. Lord, you've been so good to us. We know the Bible says that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And Father, we pray for that wisdom tonight as we seek what direction to move in different areas of our city. And we thank you for all the blessings you've already bestowed upon this great city and all of its people. And we just ask you to be here with us tonight in your Son's name. Amen.
Amen.
Amen. Thank you, Colby. All right. We do have large print, I think, Chief Peters, are those, you have those over there? Large print copies of the agenda, if that would be helpful to anyone. That said, I believe we will call the meeting to order, and I'll ask our city clerk to call the roll.
Sprouse.
Here.
Rick Culver.
Here.
Jeff Watson.
Here.
Mike Overton. Colby Fulfer.
Here.
Mike Lawson.
Here.
Rick Evans.
Here.
Jim Reed.
Here.
Kathy Jaycox. Ernest Kate.
Here. All right, thank you. Item 4, comments from citizens. The council sets aside this time every regular meeting, to hear comments from residents that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda. We just ask that you come to the microphone, clearly state your name and address, and please keep your comments brief. And again, remember that the council will take no action on what you bring forward tonight. Is there anyone that would like to address the council concerning an item that is not already on tonight's agenda? Okay, so, yes.
Just for clarification, Mayor.
Yes.
Based on what we talked about earlier, is now a good time for a comment?
No. During the agenda item would be the time to make any, we'll open it up for comments then, okay? So, seeing none, we'll move on. Approval of minutes. Council, what's your pleasure? If there are no changes or additions?
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, motion is second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. All right, procedural motions, council. Okay, we have a motion for options A and B. Do we have a second?
Second.
Motion is second. Roll call, please.
Reed.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am. Carry 6-0.
Thank you. Item 7, Planning Commission reports and recommendations by Patsy Christie. Patsy?
The first item on the agenda is a rezoning request. The request is by Landmark Custom Homes LLC for property located on the west side of South Downham and north of County Line Road. The request is to rezone the property from single-family residential SF2 to planned unit development PUD. I placed on the table tonight a copy of the final development plan for this project that's called Cottages at the Park. This is a planned unit development. It will be approximately 46.5 acres. The property is all owned by Landmark Custom Homes. After the right-of-way of Downham Road and West County Line Road is donated or made into right-of-way, they have approximately 44.7 acres to develop. They propose to do this project in 3 phases, with initial construction to include phase 1 only, but they may move on to phases 1, 2, and 3 simultaneously. Phase 1 construction will include the landscaped entryway amenity with a multi-use trail and landscaping. The developer is ready to begin construction as soon as we get through approval of the construction plans. The project consists of developing the 46.5 acres with single-family homes on 181 lots. The lots are similar in overall size to the SF2 zoning district, but because of them being longer and narrower, they're asking for the PUD. It also gives us the opportunity to be part of the covenants for the project and to move forward with some special conditions. The permitted uses in this development will be use unit 1, which is city-wide public uses by right, Use Unit 4, cultural, recreational, and health facilities, which would include the pool that they're adding as part of the amenities. Use Unit 8, which is single-family dwellings, and Use Unit 34, model home temporary marketing offices. The density is 181 single-family lots on 44.7 acres, which is about 4 lots per acre, which is similar to the SF2 that it is currently zoned. The open space is 2.5 acres, or 5.6% of the net site, and it is adjacent to the Shaw Family Park, which opens all that additional land for additional open space, but it's not part of this project. The proposed lot size are 50-foot lots that will be 50 foot wide by 125 deep in the northern and central sections. And Tiff, can you go to the next slide? Okay, you can see, and if you go to the next one, that's where it's adjacent to the park. Okay, the northern section will have those 50 by 125 foot lots. In the central section, the southern section will be with 60 to 65 foot lots by 135 foot deep. The building setbacks will have a 12-foot front. The front with garages is not applicable because all the garages are at the rear. The interior side of each of the lot is 5 feet, and the exterior side is along the street right-of-way or the corner lots is 5 feet, and the rear will be 25 feet. The intent of this development is to provide an upscale neighborhood of single-family homes with access to the large quantity of amenities available within the subdivision. The development has a high degree of connectivity with sidewalks and trails throughout the proposed subdivision, along with multiple pedestrian connections to the park trail system within Shaw Family Park directly west of the project. The shape of the proposed typical lots do not conform with the existing districts within the city. The front setbacks are less. They're not typical, so that's why we're going with the PUD. All houses will face a large 2-lane street with curb and gutter at the front of the lots. The requested 12-foot front building setback will allow the front of the houses to be located close to the street to create a feeling of community, and it is anticipated that all homes will be constructed with front porches to enhance the inviting nature of the neighborhood and encourage interaction between the residents and visitors of the development. All lots will have rear loading garages with driveways which access alleyways to be constructed behind the homes. The increased density is not a primary reason for this PUD. The depth of the front yards and the short distance between the individual homes, landscaping at the front of the houses will be crucial to creating and maintaining an attractive streetscape and also preserving property values. Minimum requirements for installation and maintenance of landscaping at the front of the homes will be specified in the covenants and enforced by the POA. The front yards and landscaping will also be maintained by the POA. The side setbacks are set at 5 feet, which will ensure eaves of adjacent homes are separated by at least 10 feet, which will meet fire code separation requirements without sprinkling or construction of fire-rated walls or eaves. Alleys or streets run along the side of a lot. The exterior side setback along the street right-of-way will be 5 feet. We do have examples of how all this fits on all the lots that are there. The rear setbacks are proposed to be 25 feet. This will ensure all lots have sufficient driveway lengths between the rear load garages and the alleyway to avoid cars blocking the alley, and also ensure that each lot has a minimum amount of green space included at the rear of the lot to avoid creating any overly urban or multifamily feel to the development. Phase 1 will be required to have heated square footage of at least 1,800 square feet. Phase 2, which includes 68 lots, will have anticipated square footages of at least 2,200 square feet. The Phase 3 will be constructed with a minimum heated space of 2,700 square feet. And I already talked about the typical lot sizes. There will be no shops, storage sheds, detached garages, mother-in-law suites, or other accessory structures, temporary or permanent of any kind, are allowed to be constructed on any lots. All residences will consist of a single-family building with an attached garage in the rear of the unit. Accessing the rear alley garages shall be large enough to accommodate at least 2 vehicles. They are anticipating 3 model homes, 1 per phase at a time, will be allowed with the development. Once 90% of the lots in one phase of the development has been sold, model homes will no longer be allowed in that phase. The specific exterior building materials will be high-quality upscale materials. No vinyl siding will be allowed on any structure. Primary buildings will include brick, stone, manufactured stone, wood, and concrete siding. They did provide us with images of the sample homes that they anticipate putting in the subdivision itself, and if you want to see those, you can contact me and we can get you copies of all that stuff. The amenities, oh no, let me back up and say they are ensuring that all the mechanical elements are screened from view from primary streets, specifying location, materials, and minimum, maximum heights for fences. No satellite dishes will be visible from the primary streets, and all yards are to be maintained in an orderly manner. All houses will be required to have a sidewalk connecting the entrance of the home to the sidewalk across the front of the lot. Trash containers will be required to be stored out of sight, and trash collection will be from the alleyways at the rear of the proposed homes. Multiple connections will be made to the Shaw Family Park. There will be a community swimming pool within the subdivision. The development included an interconnecting series of sidewalks and trails throughout the feature green space, landscaping, trees, and a trail along the primary entrance. The POA will mow all yards, front, side, and rear, and will also maintain all landscaping which is installed at the time houses are constructed. If homeowners add any additional landscaping, they will be required to maintain that. The swimming pool at the south end of the entrance boulevard will have a restroom, maintenance building, and a covered sitting area and a parking lot, and it will have a security fence that will be controlled to people who live in the subdivision itself. The primary streets along the front of the houses are proposed to be constructed within 46-foot wide right-of-way and will be 26 feet wide measured from back of curb to back of curb. Lighting will be accomplished with decorative features to be maintained by the POA. The Phase 1 and 2 shares a primary access point off of Downham. The southern portion will have one primary access point off of West County Line Road, and you'll see on there's others that are gated access points that will have emergency access, but you won't be able to get in and out of any of those. No parking will be allowed along the alleys at any time, with no overnight parking allowed on any street within the development. All streets are proposed to be dedicated to the city as public streets with dedicated street rights-of-way. As I said, Phase 1 will have 57 lots, which is 4 units per acre. Phase 2 will have 68 lots, which is 4.3 lots per acre. Phase 3 will have 56 lots, which is 3.5 acres, and which makes the entire development 181 lots, which is 3.9 units per acre. That is similar to what the SF2 zoning is involved. There's some other details in here. You can read all the details. I just tried to highlight the ones that are what sets us apart from other developments that we have in the reason for the PUD. Planning Commission reviewed this. We went through a process where they came in and met with the Planning Commission during work sessions. We worked on details. We've worked really closely with the developer and their engineer on this project. Planning Commission recommends approval of this rezoning request, and the title of the ordinance reads, an ordinance amending ordinance number 3307, the same being the zoning ordinance of the city of Springdale, Arkansas, and the plat pertaining thereto, by rezoning certain lands from low, medium density, single-family residential to planned unit development, PUD, and declaring an emergency.
Yeah, I heard a motion. Did we get a second?
I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
I was very,
Thank you, Kathy.
you're welcome.
All right, any other questions or comments? Yes, Jeff?
So, I'm not sure I understood exactly how the phases work.
Okay, if you look on that map, they're different colors.
Uh-huh.
If you start at the north, the first phase is,
To the left, or the north is
The
to the
north
left,
phase is to
right?
the left. Which one's being built first?
the Phase 1. It's the 57 lots.
On the south side?
No. Okay. Let me get my bearings on this, and Jason, you may want
Yeah,
to.
yeah.
You may
step
want to
in
help because
anytime. Yeah.
quite honestly, my eyesight's not as good as it used to be, so I can't tell you all the details from you.
Yeah, it's the left side is the north side.
Is that the first phase?
Yes, sir.
Okay, okay.
Which
Because
will
at the
include
work
main
session,
entry.
y'all had it the other way around, didn't you? In fact, part of it, you weren't even sure if you were going to put in the
Well,
PUD.
they were not gonna put the south section
Oh,
in, and
south
they came
section.
back with the whole thing in as one PUD all at one time.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, most of those things, other than different lot sizes and different house types, most all of those things apply to all three phases?
All of the other requirements about the rear garages, the sidewalks, the materials they use apply to all those phases.
Regardless of when they start development?
Right.
Okay.
And that's why we go through this. This becomes the document that is part of the rezoning itself. This is the document that we use as we move forward with it. And once it's approved, there are no variances given in a PUD.
And what did you say about gated community?
No, they have gated, not all of the access points that you see on there are open to the public. Some of those are emergency access points only, like the alleyways that come through. Those kind of things,
Alleyways
right?
to what?
To the back of the lots.
Are gated?
No.
Where's the gates, is what
So-
I'm asking.
So the gates are on this
On the
map along
south-
Downham.
Is that Downham on the south
so-
side?
Downham is on the east side of this. It's on the top
To
of
the
this
top.
Is
map.
it on the top?
Yeah,
Downham's on the top, so you have gates along Downham.
with the exception of the main entry. So the main entry will not be gated. There are other access points on Downham that will be gated for fire access only.
Are they public streets?
Yes.
We've never gated public streets. Why are we gating a public street if it belongs to the public?
These are just, they're fire access rather than putting a dead end there.
Well, I mean, well,
Cul-de-sac.
who will use that street? Will the people that live in the community go through those gates?
The idea behind this was to bring all the traffic into the subdivision in one location that if you're visiting. If you live there, you can come in but fire access is only off of those places, so we don't have people driving through it all the time, right?
Well, again, it's a public street.
Okay, I gotta
though.
think about,
The
that's a good
intent,
question, I hadn't thought about that.
the intent would be that the users of the subdivision could go out those gates. They just couldn't come back in. So we're trying to control the access point into the
But
subdivision.
there is a public street where anybody could drive in and out.
Yeah, technically, they're a public street and you go out, you just can't come back in.
But the reason they go to West Downham is for fire access.
Well,
For the most part, yes.
except
Otherwise, they could be cul-de-sacs or hammerheads.
but the residents can use them, is what he's saying.
We
Well, I
have-
think we're kind of setting a precedent there, though.
Well, we have a subdivision on the north side
But it is a PUD, yeah.
of Harbor, that where you go up to that and there is a hammerhead turnaround in those driveways. You know, when you go up to it,
It's
there's
in
a
Harbor?
hammerhead on
Harbor?
the north side
Angel
of
Falls.
Harbor. It's.
The new,
Benedito.
north of the
Benedito,
new
yeah.
fire
North of
station.
Tuscany.
Across from Tuscany,
Yeah.
to the north.
But with this size lots, you don't have the ability to put that hammerhead in there. But we had to have fire access to be able to get through, so people can still get out. That's part of the justification for it, because if we have to go that route, then they've lost some
So
lots
there's
out of there.
one access off of Downham?
Where the landscaped area is,
Uh-huh.
that's the major,
That's the main turn-in there.
right, to both phase one and phase two. And
What
then
about 3?
phase three has the access off of county line on the
Right
It
side.
on the
gated?
right side. No, it's not gated. And there it only has alleys that come onto down, right?
And the
There
parks?
is one gated access on Downham in phase 3. It's between the two phases.
Oh,
The road.
okay.
That precedent's already been set, though, with like Angel Falls. They've got a gate at the
Butterfield Gardens, we did the same thing.
But those aren't public streets.
Didn't we do the Butterfield well, it's Commons, but
We did one on that one to keep people from going through to the other. I knew there was one, I hadn't got to it yet. The one, the most recent one is those hammerheads on that end that
Fire
addresses the issue, yeah.
we need to make the development plan an exhibit.
Yes, and it didn't get done, but I will make an amendment to this before it gets signed to add this as exhibit to them. We did do it on the other one, but it's been really busy the last couple of days.
Is there public access to phase 3 off of Downham? Only off of county line, is that what you're saying?
Only off the county line.
Yes.
Yes.
And it looks like there's no vehicular connection between phases 2 and 3.
Except for the alleys.
Just, well, I said, yeah,
An alley? Alley?
No, it's just a pedestrian access.
it's just pedestrian access.
You can't drive
You
from
can't
three
drive
to
from
two
phase
away
3 to phase 2.
without going out and going around.
You can, there is an alley connection, but the main connection east-west or north-south that goes through there, we tried to not have that other alley connection like we did in phase 2.
Right.
And we just put a pedestrian crossing in there.
But
I can
on,
tell you there's been a lot of time and a lot of discussion with the fire department, with staff, with engineering, putting this subdivision together and addressing. But that was a good question. I hadn't thought about where were the other places that we'd done that with.
It's still a public street.
so those
The
streets,
The Commons is
public
too.
street.
It's a public street between the two of those, but it has a gated crossing.
those streets are gonna be dedicated to the city then.
These streets were, these will be too, and so were the ones in Commons.
Because when you were reading that, I thought you read that they were gonna be maintained by the POA.
Not the streets, no.
Landscaping.
The landscaping and stuff
Uh,
is. If on page.
I think you said streets, lights, streets and street lights and
No,
stuff.
it says
Who's
lighting will be
responsible for
accomplished.
the gate?
The POA will maintain the gate, install and maintain the gate.
How do we know that? It's
We'll
part of
add
the
that as
street,
part
isn't
of
it?
the amenity that needs to be taken care of by the POA.
Yeah, we can add it to that document if it's not in there.
You got it on your table? We'll make sure it gets put into that. Somewhere in it says all streets will be dedicated to the city. It does.
Page 7, third paragraph, fourth paragraph. All streets are supposed to be dedicated to the city's public streets, but dedicated streets.
Yeah.
Page 6, so it talks about on page 6 as well.
Yeah, I think we did say it on 6 as well.
So on the gates, the fire department will have access through those gates through a code or something? That's the way it works?
Yes.
There's not any, why did those roads go all the way to the west? Is there anything it's connecting to on the west?
That's our park.
Comes up to the park property, but.
That's the park property.
Basically, it's just dead end there? There's no turnaround?
Just access the lots there, looks to me like those furthest west lots.
Well, and they have the alleyways there, particular
Right.
turnaround there, those alleyways that you see all the way along that.
You have the park, well, doesn't it have some kind of a trail on that side that's gonna bury your,
Yeah, we'll make
You'll
those
have to answer that
connections
question. I'm
when the
not
park's
in the
developed.
park.
I think you can flip back one.
One
I don't
more.
know who's in charge.
Maybe 2 more. There.
Yeah, it's hard to see on there, but yeah, there's a trail that wraps around I guess it would be the east side of the baseball area, and then it also runs up near that pond and around.
Yeah, those connections they'll be incorporated into our development of the park.
When you said the POA is going to be responsible for landscaping, does that just mean initially?
No, they're
or
gonna maintain it.
all the lots, on the lots?
Yes. Yes.
Other
On
questions?
page 4, the next to the last paragraph says, due to the depth of the front yards and short distances between individual homes, landscaping at the front of the homes will be crucial. Minimum requirements for installation and maintenance will be specified in the covenants and enforced by the property owners association. The front yards and landscaping will also be maintained by the POA. It also goes on to say that if they do any other over and above that minimum, the homeowner would be responsible for the additional.
So, and I hate to keep harping on the gates, but you're telling me that there's going to be no access to the development through the gates, only exit,
Well,
Yes.
other than the fire department,
right,
or the police department
Right.
perhaps.
right.
Residents of the community will not be going in and out of those gates.
They can go out.
They can go out, but not
They
in.
can't come
And is that in the plan?
Part of the plan, yes.
It's in the PUD plan, it says that.
The way it's designed, the way it's laid out.
I don't know if it specifically says they can go out, but we can add that to the plan.
But it doesn't specifically say they can't come in? Yeah, I just, what bothers me is treating those streets different from any other public street.
It doesn't address that in here. Doesn't say that. I know that's the way the design is, and that's what it shows on that plan. It doesn't say in the document itself.
Are they, I guess, to clear up the gate, or help clear it up, because I'm not clear on this, would it be so it wouldn't be a Knox box, it would be some kind of coded,
I think it has to be a Knox box gate for
well,
fire.
then people can't get out. That's what I don't understand.
Well, they could get out, but
Greg,
not
you're
in,
gonna
I
have to-
guess.
Say, I'm sorry, Greg, go ahead.
I'm Greg Taylor with Griffin Company Realtors. I live in Springdale. I helped lay this out, but to answer the question about the gates, twofold. There were several reasons why we chose to do that, but the people that buy a home in this subdivision will be able to, when they pull up to the gate, it will open. There'll be a control under the asphalt
Okay.
that when they pull up there, so you won't have to have a code. You just pull up and it'll open.
So anybody can go in.
So if you're in the subdivision and you want to go out that street,
Well,
you
that's
can
to go out.
you can go out. You don't have to go all the way back through
What
the
about
main
coming in, though?
entrance. Coming in, you'll come through the main entrance to come in.
And how would the fire department get in?
They will have a code, or they'll have access, however it is that when we met with them, they said they would be able to get in, however that is. And when we talk to the people that are going to provide the gates, they know how to do that as well.
So it's only at exit then?
It's only an exit. It's similar to Pinnacle, same way. A lot of you come through the main gate, but you can go out other entrances. You just
Right.
can't come back in there.
Yeah.
And one of the reasons we did that was so that if you lived in that neighborhood and somebody didn't necessarily live on your street, you wouldn't have through traffic coming through into the neighborhood past your house. So it gives you a little more sense of privacy there without having a gated community. So we didn't really want a gated community. We wanted people to feel like they could come and go as they please. But we're spending a lot of money to give up 2.5 acres to create a green space there as the main entrance. So we didn't want people to come down Downham and just pull into the neighborhood. We wanted them to come through the main entrance and then use that as access to either the north side of the subdivision or the south side of the subdivision. But if you live there, you don't have to go all the way back through the main. You can exit,
Or anybody can get out?
or anybody. If you're there and they're
If you're
visiting you and you want to
neighbor-
pull up to
yeah,
the gate, you
visitor.
can get out. Yeah. And then on the west side, each street has access to the park. And it's also a controlled access. So it will be a coded gate, and as a homeowner, you'll have a code that'll open that gate to give you access to the park.
But just for walking to the park, you mean?
Exactly. Can't drive, but just walking. And the streets go all the way down to the end to give people a place to park or a sidewalk in front of their house, even though they have a rear entry garage. But at the end of each street, there'll be a landscaped area with a sidewalk that goes through a gate that has access to the park. And we created the pedestrian, because the houses on the south side are bigger lots and bigger houses, we created a pedestrian so people wouldn't just drive through the neighborhood, like have just a raceway from one end to the other. So we created that just walkway rather than a place for them to be able to drive,
So
because
how do you get from phase 3 to phase 1?
you have to go out and around.
Or walk.
But
walk through.
phase 2, that's actually an alley that connects to that pedestrian. So it's an alleyway there. So we didn't want a street and then an alley and then a street. So we just created a pedestrian. So when we added phase 3 to the PUD, that also give them access to the pool and to the amenities. Or if kids were playing with kids, we just didn't want you to have to go out of the neighborhood and all the way back around.
But now,
So-
aren't those alleys on the left and the right of phase 3?
There are alleys in phase 3.
Because like the trash truck has to do.
Yes.
The waste management is done from the back of the houses.
Yes.
He's got to be able to get to those houses.
Yes, he does, and there is access to that same alley, but it's on the east end and the west end, it's not through the middle.
Right.
We put the pedestrian through the middle. On phase 2, you have access through the middle and also on either end. So you'll have to drive a little bit farther down if you buy in phase 3 to get to your garage, but
You don't necessarily have to go out of phase 3 to get to phase 2 or phase 1, either one.
no, you can walk through there, and
But you
it'll
can
be a
also
wide
drive
enough
down the
area
alley.
that you could drive a golf cart or something through,
You
but,
drive down the alley.
no, you're not gonna be able to drive a car through there. Huh? Oh, the alley?
Those alleys on the left-hand side and the
Yeah,
right-hand side.
you could through the alley.
That's what I said, through
Yeah,
the alleys.
yeah, you're right, you're correct, Jim, yeah.
Landmark's the same company developing on the other side of 612, is that right?
No,
Is there
sir,
another one there? Okay.
it's a different builder.
Yeah, they are developing in the region.
They develop in Benton County mostly. This will be their first project in Springdale.
Right on county line.
Yeah, on the county line, yeah. And to answer your question about the POA,
The landscaping?
the landscaping, the POA will have a contract, and they will maintain all the green space and all the lawns. If you don't want them to do your lawn, then you lock your gate, and we just won't mow a locked gate. But if you keep your backyard unlocked, then they will mow your backyard as well. And we'll take care of all the landscaping, and it's just paid in your dues. But we'll have one company that'll take care of everything. Sprinklers will be the same way. The lawns will be sprinkled, but we'll control the sprinklers as well. So
Is that not done at Harbor Meadows right now? I mean,
I don't think so.
well, the
Think
green
so.
space is, but not
the lawns.
lawns.
Not the lots.
But there are some neighborhoods, one particular in Fayetteville that is similar to this, and they do that. All the lawns are maintained by the POA. Because when you build a smaller house on a smaller lot, a lot of people don't even keep lawn equipment
Lawnmowers.
anymore.
Right.
So it's just all done for you. You just pay a monthly fee. So it is, I
think it's
will
gonna
agree,
be-
it's a new way of doing it, but
I think it's going to be popular.
it'd be popular with me.
Yeah. Any other questions or comments?
One quick one. Greg, who's gonna create the POA? Is it through the company? Is it gonna be the homeowners there?
The
How is
developer
this-
will be in charge of the POA until 90% of the homes are built. And then it'll be turned over to the residents.
All right.
But we will have that in place from day one. When we build a model home, or when we put in, with phase 1 comes the green space. whether we do phase 2 or not. So you get the green space, the in and out, and phase 1. We will have to start maintaining that the minute we put it in
Which one is phase one, the
on the north side.
north side?
Right. So the green space and the north phase 1 will all be built at once, but most likely phase 2 will be built as well, and we'll have those two to start off with. But we'll have a contract with someone once we develop, and then they'll just add on as we build houses. They'll just keep taking care of things.
And that covenant document will be filed with the plat, when they file the plat too.
In the past, it's been a while since we reviewed this, but we had PUDs and subdivisions that had legal defense funds set up originally with $5,000 in that account to cover any kind of civil cases that could not be individually done by the homeowners. Will that exist in this PUD?
It's not in there now, no. Part of the reason being, we know that the POA has to exist from day one, and the dues have to be there because they're gonna hire the management company to start with. And the fees that are going to be assessed covers not just the maintenance, but the whole thing, right? That's the only reason we didn't include it, because they have to have that POA in existence at the very beginning to hire that management company to start maintaining that stuff when it originally starts.
Okay, as long as it's covered, because we've been through this before with another PUD that didn't work out so well for that very reason.
This is a little bit different
I
PUD than
truly
what
understand
that was.
that. Lessons learned.
Any other comments or questions?
On the no shops, storage sheds, who enforces that? The city or the POA?
Well, because it's in this document, it gives the city the ability to enforce that as well as the POA itself.
Because it'll be a covenant as well?
Right, it is one of the conditions of the PUD itself. That's the advantage of putting this kind of stuff in the development plan. The city can become part of that enforcement as well as the POA. That's why we go to this extent of writing documents that has several pages worth of that kind of stuff in there.
And also, Jeff, the builder will have multiple plans, like 6 house plans, and none of those plans will, and those will be the plans that will be picked from. So you'll walk into the model home, you'll pick your plan, you'll pick your amenities, and they'll build it.
And there's only one builder.
And there's only one builder for the whole subdivision. They'll build all the houses. And as far as, I know the concerns of, well, what if they do something, and what if they don't put their trash cans up? And there'll be fines assessed to the homeowner if there's an habitual breaking of the covenants, and those fines will be assessed to their annual dues. And if they don't pay their annual dues, then there'll be a lien put on the property. So we're doing everything we can to enforce the covenants, and there will be a penalty if you decide not to go along with the covenants. So, you know, if there's no boats allowed and you decide to park a boat back there and you're asked to move it, and if you don't move it, then you're going to pay a fine. If you don't pay the fine, it gets added to your annual assessment. If you don't pay your annual assessment, then you get a lien put on your property.
We've been through lots of discussion on this one.
We've had a lot of discussion.
Lots of discussion on this one.
Other questions or comments?
I think it's a great addition. I think it's something Springdale needs, and we appreciate Landmark choosing Springdale.
Yeah. Anybody in the audience? All right, then we're ready to vote. Denise?
Culver,
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Fulfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans. Reed,
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes. Second.
Watson,
Yes.
Fulfer,
Yes.
Lawson,
Yes, ma'am.
Evans. Reed,
Yes.
Cox.
Yes.
Culver,
Yes.
Both the ordinance emergency clause carry 7-0.
And the emergency was, on this one is, as you can tell, they're ready to start. So, okay. The next item is a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks in connection with a large-scale development, Paint Innovators at, what's the address?
I think we got the wrong.
You got the wrong map in the packet.
No,
It
that's
says
the right one.
1824.
That's the right one.
That says 1824. Resolution says 1834. Well, it's
Okay.
1834.
What does the map say up there?
1824, and it's off of, what is that, South 56?
Okay, basically, it's that lot that's adjacent to where M Avenue would come through. That's the location. I'll verify what the address is. The master street plan requires that they dedicate right-of-way for Emma Street because that's where the connection is to come through. They are willing to dedicate the right-of-way. They're asking for a waiver of street improvements along Emma Street, and the planning commission is recommending that waiver be granted. The title of the resolution.
That's, I'm sorry, go ahead.
Oh, okay. A resolution approving a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks as set forth in ordinance number 3725 to paid innovators in connection with large-scale 18-34 large-scale development plan.
Move the resolution pass option 1.
Okay.
That's West Emma, where West Emma runs into Newtonson and goes on across. Is that what you're saying?
Uh-huh.
And
And then it goes on across, the master street plan shows it goes up over 49 and connects with Harbor. That's the extension of Emma Avenue through there, yes.
So they're designating a right-of-way for Emma?
This is not the first one. We've got property that's been dedicated in those others. As those large-scale developments come through, they're required to dedicate the right-of-way. We're just not requiring them to do any street improvements because
Right.
we don't have any way to move that stuff forward. So that planning commission is recommending that that waiver be granted. But we are getting the right-of-way.
When are they doing that?
When? They have to dedicate the right-of-way by separate document before they can get approval to move forward with their large scale. We get that up front. And they're gonna clean this up. They've got a really good building design to go on this piece of property. Really gonna clean up and make a major difference to that location. And I'll check the address to see which one it is. And I did read the resolution title.
I think there was a
Okay.
motion. in there,
She
right?
tells us we got a motion, but no second. Okay, we have a motion and a second. Other comments or questions? Anyone? Okay, Denise?
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans? Reed?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes?
Carry 7-0, option 1.
And that was option 1, right? The next one is the request for a waiver of sidewalk improvements with the in connection with the development of a single-family home at 8965 West Miller Road. Planning Commission recommends the approval of this waiver of the sidewalk. So that would be option 1. The title of the resolution reads, "A resolution approving a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curbs, gutters, and sidewalks is set forth in ordinance number 3725 to James Harrington in connection with 8965 West Miller Road, a single-family dwelling."
Resolution passed with option 1.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Anyone in the room? Okay, Denise?
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Yes.
Carry 7-0, option 1.
Okay, the next one is also a waiver of sidewalk at 3060 North 48th Street in connection with a single-family dwelling be built at that location. Planning Commission recommends approval of this waiver. The title of the resolution reads, "A resolution approving a waiver of street improvements, drainage, curb gutters, and sidewalks is set forth in ordinance number 3725 to Justin Shockley in connection with 3060 North 48th Street, a single-family dwelling." And you can see here he has a very narrow frontage.
It looks like just a drive.
Pretty much just, I think
much
there's
drive.
at least two drives or maybe three that come together at that location. So
Move
it's a
the
very
resolution
narrow
pass
piece right
with
there.
option 1.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the resolution. Any other comments or questions? Anyone in the audience need to speak to this? Okay, Denise?
Evans? Reed?
Yes.
Cox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Wolfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Carry 7-0, option 1.
All right. Item 8, Street and Capital Improvements Committee, reports and recommendations. Chairman Rick Evans. Rick?
Money's gonna be coming out of the bond money, bond program.
Correct, out of the street portion of the bond money.
Does the resolution pass?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further questions or comments? Okay, Denise?
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Wolfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
ma'am. Carry 7-0.
All right, we're at item 9, Finance Committee report and recommendations. Chairman is Jeff Watson. Jeff?
Thank you, Mayor. The Finance Committee has met several nights in discussion of the 2019 budget. The most recent meeting was last night. There was no recommendation from the committee to forward anything to the council, although there was discussion that this was on the agenda for tonight and that we would further our discussion tonight. So I'm not sure if it's appropriate to read the resolution or not. I will if anybody wants me to, or basically what we talked about last night was just having discussion as to how to move forward with the budget.
Have a copy yet? I have not seen it.
Yeah.
Of the salary survey done by Johansson Group.
I haven't seen it.
Has any, we've seen pieces.
We've all seen the summary. Gina? Do you have a copy of the actual study?
I don't have a copy of the full study. I have the summary, and I can get a copy of it for all of our council members
Okay.
if we need to.
It sounds like we want to see that.
Okay.
They've seen the summary.
Yes.
That's been given to them. But if you can get your hands on the full study,
I can do that.
then let's do that.
Okay.
How quickly can that happen?
I will contact them first thing in the morning and make sure that we get a full copy of it.
All right, thank you. Well, I'll go ahead and start.
Sorry.
You have my proposed ordinance that includes a pay adjustment that would coincide with the results and the summaries that you've gotten of the study. And I stand by that proposed ordinance. I have, after trying to read the tea leaves from what I took away from the committee meeting last night, rather than, in case the proposed pay adjustment is not approved, rather than cutting 8 different ways from 8 different council members, and I have presented you earlier today with another option, an option 2. I present that as an option over just going in and making cuts, because the science of the study would still be applied with option 2, and by that I mean the pay scale that's recommended as a result of the study would still be intact, but what we would do with that is back everybody off a step, so it would reduce the amount of the raises. They'd still be significant in some cases, and in all cases, I believe more than a step increase would be. But they would reduce the cost of the for the annual cost. If we stuck with that all year, it would reduce it. Initially, I thought it was $900,000, but not all that would come from the general fund. So the net decrease in general fund expenditures, you've got it on this sheet, would be $750,000, and which would require, instead of requiring a 60% transfer to the general fund, it would require 55% transfer, so leaving 45% to continue to grow in CIP, add to CIP. So that's a 5% difference. I hope we'll consider the original proposal, but I didn't want to blindside you with another option that I think is a good option if we can't get everyone comfortable with the original proposal.
Mayor, I think what you've proposed today, similar to one of the options that was mentioned last night to explore today, I think there's a way to make these raises happen. I mean, it is a pretty substantial increase. It's going to cut back out of CIP, but I think we could still make it work and get the raises. We could do something similar to what you proposed this afternoon for a time, maybe even if it's a 6-month evaluation, do a step now. And then if we can look at our projections, and if we're on track with what projections have been given to us, if we're on track for those, then go ahead, a midpoint this 2019, and if we're able to do that second step, go ahead and do it at that point. And I think that way, in this year, everybody gets the raises that have been proposed. And I think everybody up here wants to be able to do that. We're just trying to find a way to make it all work. And but I do like the idea. My only addition to that would be, I think we have, and we talked about this a lot over the last few meetings, we have an issue in trying to retain our new patrolmen. And I think that's one of the issues that we to try to make sure we have adequate pay for those officers. Even if we do the one step now, I think if we can take those 25, what I've come up with is it looks like about 25 patrolmen that would still be under 40,000, and even with the first step increase, but maybe getting that entry level, because we're having a hard time retaining those officers, and I don't think we can afford to delay that any longer. But if you look at 25 officers, patrolmen, and you can do them up to that $40,000 level, that's a small number of this entire ask that we're making. And I would ask that we consider doing that. I think 55% out of the CIP is doable for us. I think we've got, Wyman can correct me if I'm wrong, $3.2 million in unreserved right now, which that seems to be a good number for us. That's my opinion on it, but I think we can make something like this work. I would ask, though, I know that I think Ernest had found an error in this study, maybe on one of the job.
Right, they've corrected it. They had the deputy city attorneys graded the same grade as the senior deputy city attorney, but they've fixed that.
Okay.
And they've resent that to you all.
They did?
Yes.
Yeah.
I sent it last week, was it? I think it was last Thursday, maybe?
I think you got the corrected copy.
Have it corrected. I had it too.
This was printed the first day we got this. I don't know that I have the corrected one. But anyway, I'd just like to make sure that we go through and see if there might be any other errors on this to move forward.
I think department heads have had an ample opportunity to look at it, and they would come back, they would have notified us if there were any other discrepancies, just as Ernest did.
Okay.
Mayor, I appreciate you coming up with other options, because there's been talk of other options, other ways of doing it. And frankly, I think that personally, I'd like to explore other options of ways to pay for it as well, possibly out of reserves or some other options. So I feel like we need at least one more committee meeting and then hopefully bring it forward for the final vote in December.
And honestly, I support that idea, Jeff, because you said, and I'm sorry, my day's been very busy. I didn't access your change until about,
Yeah, I didn't see it till 4 o'clock.
I don't think I saw mine until probably 4:30, 4:45. I'm sorry, Doug, I don't have all day to sit and,
Okay.
it's not your fault.
I understand.
So again, and then it gives Mike Overton a chance also to be a part of this conversation.
And then Colby's got that other request that I think, I just don't see how we can vote on something like that tonight.
Okay. Well, I hope in presenting the other option, I didn't throw the first proposal out.
Oh, I'm not even suggesting that, Mayor. I just
I
haven't
did
had a
that,
chance
I did
to
that
even
out of
look.
respect for this council, in order to give you ample time. I didn't want to throw another option on the table, looking like it was a move of desperation to try and get something done. I took your comments from last night, and we've tried Wyman suggested this possibility this morning. Basically, as I said, what it would be doing is pulling everybody back another step. They would still realize that basically it changes 6% and 8% raises to probably 3% to 4% raises. And 15 to 16% raises, it drops them down to more like 11 and 12.
Till we can address them. Till we come back.
Until we come back and the possibility that Colby mentioned at July to revisit, look at revenues, then the way that would be addressed, if the council agreed, would be that step that we put everybody back would go back in. And then you'd be setting it where I hoped that we would be setting with this proposal. Those are the options before us. I know that the council wants to look at things more, and that's certainly your prerogative. And so if that's the wishes of the council, I guess we would need a motion
Well, do we
table
need a
this.
motion? 'Cause we haven't read any titles, Ernest, but it is on the agenda, so how's that work?
Well, it is on the agenda, and so you're free to take any action you wish to take, whether it be action on the resolution, action on the original budget, action on the option 2, action to refer to committee.
But do we need a
whatever.
motion to table, though, is the question?
Well, are you going to table it, or are you going to send it back to committee? I mean, it's whatever you guys
Well,
want to do.
I'm asking for a committee meeting is what I'm suggesting.
So is that a motion to take it back to, because you do that in other matters sometimes, you take it
Okay,
back to
so,
committee for further
yes, so my
discussion.
motion is to take items A and B, 9A and B, back to committee Monday night, following the
Following the regular committee meeting.
regular committee meeting.
Committee will decide a recommendation to make at that time.
That's fine, I will not be in town.
Ma'am,
I will not be in town, but you all are perfectly capable.
what would you rather do at a different night?
I just won't be
Thursday
in
night?
this city. I won't be in this city Thursday night. It's not anybody's fault here. You all are perfectly capable. I'll be back late Tuesday night, so any night from me thereafter would work.
Jeff, I would ask why not Thursday night, so if we needed Monday night, we could do it then too, if we,
I can do it Thursday night. Anybody opposed to Thursday night?
I probably can't be there Thursday night.
This Thursday, right? You're saying this Thursday?
yes, sir.
Well, we got one that can't Thursday and one that can on Monday, so.
I can't do either night,
Oh, you can't do either one, okay.
so you all
Well, let's just do it Monday then, since we'll be here, right?
know that. And I will be.
Everybody at this table except Kathy says they can be here Monday. So that's my motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to refer this back to committee next Monday night. Before we vote, I think we need to give some direction to all the folks that have showed up here. Do you want to take any comments tonight? Do you want them to invite them back Thursday night, or how do y'all want to handle that?
Are there comments that,
I assumed there would be comments, but I don't know.
which is perfect, I mean, that's fine. Certainly.
Come on up to the mic. Yeah.
Mayor, you said Thursday night, but you meant Monday night.
I'm sorry, I meant Monday night. And we'll take some comments before we vote on moving this to committee next Monday night. Please, if there's several that want to speak, I'm going to give the same speech I always do. Please keep your comments as brief as possible, and let's not get too repetitive. Okay?
I understand.
Thanks.
For those of you who don't know me, my name's Mike Price. I'm the president of our local 3007 Firefighters Association. I just want to start off with a couple things here. Over the years, we've had a lot of things go on, from the RVS ballpark to the revitalization downtown, a lot of things that not all the men and women in here have necessarily been on board with or supported, but you guys have all done a real good job taking the city in the direction that Mayor Sprouse and everybody else has painted that vision, and we appreciate that, and we want to say thank you for that. There's a lot of things going on coming up with the bond issue, and new buildings in all departments and equipment and everything else, and we appreciate all of that more than we could ever say. Over the years, as a lot of this stuff has gone on, a lot of the men and women of the city has kind of felt like we've taken a side seat and even a back seat sometimes to some of these other projects. And we haven't complained, and we haven't argued, and we haven't asked for anything, because we knew that there was a vision that the mayor and all of you as city council have had. We really feel like, with everything going on and with where the city is at from our standpoint, that this is the year that we ask that the men and women of the departments in the city and the heart and soul of this city take a front seat along with all the other projects. And that we ask that if there's any way that you can keep the original proposal and show everybody that we are just as important as everything else, we would appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Do we have other comments? Yes, Sarah?
Mayor, I know you want me to be brief, but I'm a lawyer and I have a hard time keeping anything brief. I've thanked you privately for this, but I do want to thank you publicly for taking on this project and proposing these raises. And I told you on Saturday how value I felt as an employee whenever I found out about this proposal, understanding that nothing is guaranteed, but it was so wonderful to know that you would go to bat for the cities of the employees of the city. I've been a City of Springdale employee for 5 years. I've been a practicing attorney for 8 years. I'm proudly married to a Springdale police officer. We got married in downtown Springdale by Judge Jeff Harper. We love Springdale. We spend our tax dollars in Springdale. We encourage all of our friends to go to Springdale. And I understand the task that you have as city council members to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money. And please know that myself, my husband, and everyone I work with in the city takes that obligation so seriously. I understand the realities of budgeting, and I try to do whatever I can in my work to make sure that the taxpayers' dollars are going far. I take initiative to do free trainings for the police department, so they're not having to expend money doing that. And I think in my office in particular, we probably have more face time with the public than any city attorney's office in the state of Arkansas. And just to brag on my office, I would put them up against any city attorney's office in the state. They're that good. All that being said, we do understand, and we're well aware that we're paid far less than other jurisdictions are neighboring. We work for the city of Springdale out of labor of love. But at the same time, I think that bringing up wages to a more fair market value would show the employees of the city of Springdale how much you value them and show that we've been investing in infrastructure. We can invest in our employees because we have the best employees in the state of Arkansas, and they should be compensated as such. So I'm asking you to show your confidence in the economy of the city of Springdale, knowing that we have that tax revenue coming up because Springdale is an up and coming and we are a shining star in the state of Arkansas, and invest in your employees as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Sarah. Anyone else? Sure, Dustin.
I'm Dustin McDonald. Trying to keep this brief. Sarah said a lot of the stuff that I had to do. Just read a statement here. Again, my name is Dustin McDonald. I'm currently a captain, the accreditation manager for Springdale Fire Department. I'm coming before you tonight not only as a city employee, but a spouse of another employee and a voting citizen of the city. I'd like you to strongly consider the mayor's approval for suggested pay raises to all employees. Pay studies are done for a reason. It's a common business practice and a major part of the accreditation model that we've entered into at the fire department. Most respected departments worldwide use that model, and it seemed to work pretty well. If we're not going to utilize those studies, though, why are we doing them? The city's shown great prosperity over the past several years, and it looks as if we're poised to continue that success over the next 5 to 10 years. Employees are the reason for a lot of that success and deserve to be rewarded for their part of the process. I understand the need to speculate for future recession, good and bad, but this is what we have reserved funds for. It allows us to accommodate when the lean times do come. The numbers that were utilized to recommend the study and the numbers were provided using accurate historical data and have been well proven in the past. We cannot punish the employees based on what we think might happen. Our city employees do a lot more in their jobs with a lot less resources and personnel that surrounding cities do. We have higher risk and incident rates than most of the surrounding cities. Our guys put their lives on the line, police, fire, every day. And we do it. We're proud to do it, but it's definitely a task that is a lot harder than a lot of the surrounding departments. Along with the increased workload, many employees in the city have had job description changes. They've changed tremendously over the past few years with little to no change in pay, my wife being one of those. Responsibilities such as supervisory roles, additional workloads, and tasks have those employees to go above and beyond the rate of pay they currently work at. In conclusion, I've had the privilege to travel and evaluate many fire departments across the country. I've seen what happens when you do not compete with pay, or when you're not competitive with pay, and there are local municipalities that pay more. Our city will become a training department for employees who leave us for better pay and benefits. Please consider the employees and their families when making this decision. I understand you guys have the responsibility to be good stewards of the citizens' money. But that being said, it does not mean just deciding when and how much to spend. It's also deciding when an investment will benefit the city. And investing in the employees will most certainly provide a good return on that investment. So, thank you.
Thank you, Dustin. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
I'm Holt Smith. I'm with my scouts. I'm a citizen. I was just going to be here to have my scouts observe your workings for a merit badge. I'd like to just petition that you consider giving these folks their due for a raise. I appreciate their service in my behalf. I know it's my tax dollars, but I appreciate their support again in my behalf. They've come to my favorite mother-in-law's house when she needed it. They've been very respectful and just for my scouts' benefit, I'm doing my civic duty, guys, and having my voice heard. But anyway, these guys and gals, in my opinion, deserve a fair shake, and I appreciate it if you guys and ladies consider giving these folks their due. Thank you.
Thank you. Hey, before you sit down, have your scouts stand up so we can recognize them. Yeah, we always like to know when they're here. Thanks for being here. Someone else? Yes.
Hi, my name is Lloyd Spain, and I'm a student here in Springdale. I'm not a taxpayer, but I really believe that the issues in Springdale are very important. And we learn in our classes that we cannot attract businesses without strong police and fire departments. So I really believe that in order to compete with other cities, just from an economic standpoint, we really need to pay attention to what our police departments and fire departments need. So I really believe that we should be thinking about them and their families when we think about Springdale. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Yes, sir.
My name's Dean Luce, work for the fire department, also a citizen of Springdale. If my fellow firefighters or police officers, if you have to work a second job or even a third, will you please stand up? That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? I'm gonna say something and not to grandstand. Oh, come ahead, Judge.
First of all, I got permission from judicial ethics to speak up here. I wasn't sure if I could, but you know I was city attorney for 26 years. First of all, I'm going to say that I like the proposal the mayor submitted. Springdale has waited a long, long time for any kind of parity with the other cities. At the court, even though I'm a state employee now and you have no jurisdiction over my salary, but my court employees do, I can't get decent people a lot of times to apply. We offered 3 people jobs, and 2 stayed in retail, and the third said, I can't come up there for less money. And we're competing with Tyson's, Walmart, besides all the other cities, and you just can't do it. I will say this, I trust the mayor. He says he can do it, and I believe he can, because when I was city attorney in 2009, his first year, he calls us all together, and we had to cut our budget by about 10%. Nobody got raises for 3 years. I had to cut out all overtime. I sent employees home on Thursday afternoon sometime for the end of the week because we didn't have the money. They never got a raise, and they're always promised someday when we're in prosperity, then we'll make it right and in parity with the other cities, but that day never comes. I've been here now 32 years, not counting the 7 years I worked for the police department, but we're never equal. And for my employees, I ask you to consider that number one. I trust him fully that he wouldn't do it if he wasn't sure we couldn't pay for it. And it's just a matter of quality of type employee, and that's everything, especially with what you asked to do. Sarah Sparkman, what she said, I'm not going to talk about my department, but I'll say this about the city attorney's office. They do more with less than any other, and they're in my court every day, and I know what they do, and it's hard work. You should be paid the same way other cities are paid, or at least close proximity. This won't even do that completely, from the best I can tell. But again, I trust him. If he says he can afford it, I believe he will. And I promise you, if he can't, he'll be back and tell us to cut, because he did it before.
Yeah. Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you.
What I was going to say, yeah, come ahead. Come ahead. Y'all don't need to hear me.
My name's David Carr. I work for the fire department. Mr. Harper hit the nail on the head. 2009, I remember you coming to the fire station and in our big A room asked us to forego raises, forego steps to invest in the city of Springdale. And we did that for 4 years without anything. And you guys, there's been proposals, hey, halfway through the year, we'll take a look at it and see if we can do something. And it's just never panned out. At some point in time, when you invest, you need to make sure that you get a return on that investment. And man, we're doing pretty good. I think it's time to invest in the employees. So
thank you. I'm going to make a point. I've made the point to the council, so this isn't for the council. And listen, I know that they're up here to make the right decisions, and if they could say yes, they would. And I hope they can, but I hope they can get to yes. But kind of to play off Jeff's point and then your point, I just need people to remember that back in 9 and 10, and many of the same faces, I sat up here and said, we just can't give raises. And excuse me, many of the council were up here, and many of the same council, and I didn't propose raises for the council to take away. I stood up and I made the decisions and the proposals that I felt like we could make, and I'm doing that again this year. So sorry, I had no idea I'd get emotional. I just I believe it. I believe, as I said earlier, I think this is the right time. It's not easy. It's paid for, as many of you, as the council will know. If you approve what I propose, it's paid for by taking, by putting less into CIP. And I believe this is the time to do it, and I've said that several times, but I just wanted the public to know that as I've expressed to the council, that I've sat in front of the same faces and said we couldn't do something, and I'm always willing to do that, but I believe now we can do something. So, anybody else?
Mayor, I appreciate the decisions you've had to make and we've had to make over the years together. There is not a single person sitting at this table that has not and will not support exactly what the mayor has proposed for police and fire in particular. You are the heart and soul of what a city needs. It's, from my perspective, it's some of the others that are giving me a little concern and need to be discussed. It has nothing to do with police or fire for me. I'm 100% in support of what is being proposed. It's some of the others that some of us might disagree. I'd just like to discuss it.
And that's fair, Kathy, and but I would challenge anyone up here at this table to pick a position that has been funded and stood up as a department by this city and this city council that is not important to the quality of life of our city.
Not suggesting that for
I know
one
that.
moment, Doug.
I know that. But I think to follow up on your comments, that's important. It's an important point to make.
And again, I'm not suggesting that not everybody gets a raise.
Right.
It may not be at the level that has been proposed.
Yeah.
That's
I appreciate that.
the only comment I have.
My proposal would bring every employee in the city to what we believe is a competitive market rate, and I think that's important. I know everybody thinks that's important. So please don't think I'm saying you're not.
Not thinking anything other
Okay.
than what I've just said.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Okay, then we'll, the motion and second before us is to refer the budget back to committee that will be discussed on Monday night committee meeting following our normal committee meeting. All right? All right, if no other comment, I'll ask for the vote.
Jaycox?
Yes.
Culver?
Yes.
Watson?
Yes.
Fulfer?
Yes.
Lawson?
Yes, ma'am.
Evans?
Yes, ma'am.
Reed?
Yes.
Carry 7-0.
All right, thank you. Item 10 is, I'll go ahead and read it, Wyman, but you can come, a resolution authorizing the destruction of old accounting records.
Move the resolution pass.
Okay? Any other, do we have a second?
Second.
Okay, thank you. We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Well, we need
Well,
to make sure we know when this is going to happen so Ms. Jacobs can be in town.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. I appreciate that.
I just want to make sure.
We do have a couple of new council members coming on, so, yeah. I don't think Colby's ever gotten to do that
It's very exciting.
No one's ever
Colby.
done it.
No one's, that's right. No one's done it but Kathy. All right. Okay, we'll work with the council members to schedule a time if this is approved. All right, roll call.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
All right, thank you. Ernest, I'll give you number 11.
This is a resolution setting a hearing date on a petition to abandon a drainage easement in the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas. Statute requires that you set a public hearing before action can be taken on it, and that's would set the public hearing for the January 8th council meeting.
Resolution pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any further comments or questions? Anyone? Okay, Denise.
Watson.
Yes.
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Carry 7-0. Last item is an ordinance authorizing the city clerk to file a cleanup lien for the removal of overgrown brush and debris on property located within the city of Springdale, Washington County, Arkansas, and property located at 3678 Van Leer Avenue.
The ordinance pass.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the ordinance.
Is that a, okay, I'm sorry. Just didn't have the page number on this.
You okay?
Yep.
All right. Anybody in the audience need to speak to this property? All right. Denise?
Fulfer.
Yes.
Lawson.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Move the emergency clause pass.
Second.
Yes, ma'am.
Evans.
Yes, ma'am.
Reed.
Yes.
Jaycox.
Yes.
Culver.
Yes.
Watson.
Yes.
Vote the ordinance emergency clause carries 7-0.
All right, thank you. Any comments from our department heads? Council, any further comments?
I'd like to say one thing. I'm not going to be here for the next meeting unless, and I think y'all discussed the second meeting canceling it. I've had a pleasure working with everyone, and it's been a lot of fun.
Thank you, Rick. You've done a great job and represented the people of Springdale very well.
I would like to thank Jeff Watson for the picture he gave Rick and I. Kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, that's great.
Thank you, Rick, for your service.
You're welcome.
And I know the council will join me. I'll come back to Ernest if he has any comments, but the comments our employees made tonight were done in and a couple of our citizens were done in a very respectful way, and I know the council appreciates that as much as I do. So thank you. Ernest, do you have anything else?
No, sir.
All right.
Motion to adjourn.
Okay, we have a motion to adjourn and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
We're adjourned. Thank you.